I'm Jeannie Lauren Dowden for Conduit News. Today joining us is Brian Cooper. As many of you know, he's running for the Arkansas House District 46. Look forward to talking with Brian about issues that are important to him, his background, and what motivated him to run. Brian, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So
Well, yeah, as I just briefly mentioned, you are running for House District 46. Um, For those who may not be familiar with that district, what are the lines? What counties does that involve?
predominantly southern Franklin County and all of Logan County. There's a small sliver of Sebastian and a small section of Johnson, but predominantly Franklin and Logan County, southern Franklin and the entire county of Logan.
Okay, so since you said Franklin, of course, I have a question for you later, as I'm sure you've been asked
Oh, yeah.
multiple times. But just briefly tell us about yourself, your background. How long have you lived in that area?
I was actually born and raised in Boonville.
Okay.
I moved away briefly to help my parents get their business off the ground over in Oklahoma. Lived over there for about 2 weeks. Moved back, and I've spent my life in every sector of the economy except the public sector. So this will be a change for me. I'm a business owner. My wife and I own a media company, Coal Creek Media, and currently help manage. I'm the general manager for 6 different retail locations in Logan and Scott counties, as well as the human resources manager for an industrial refrigeration company owned by the same person, so the same family.
You sound busy, and yet you're going to run. You now want to run for office. People have been like, Brian, what are you thinking?
Well, you know, if we don't have a government that values liberty, owning a business doesn't work very well. If we have
Hmm.
taxation that is over encumbersome and it doesn't make it deducive, it doesn't make it a good environment for small business, and that's what I see. And
Hmm.
um, we've, I think, we've lost our way in Arkansas in the government sector, and I just want to do my part in serving to the folks of District 46 so they can have a voice and to give them a fighting chance in this economy.
Yeah. What does that look like for you to say, you're saying that government is, I'm assuming, too involved, too big. What specifically regarding, because that's something that Conduit for Commerce focuses on, as you may know, is the Arkansas small business owner and economic freedom. Um,
Yes.
what does that look like for you? What do you see right now in Arkansas that you think really hinders um, that for small business owners?
Well, Arkansas ranks at the bottom of every metric that counts, specifically with business. Our taxation on small business, the regulations um, are there. It's just too much. And they were, as you know, government grows in the presence of money. And during the times when our economy was booming, our government grown up uh, to match that. And now with our economy shrinking, we have to shrink the size of our government to match that of our economy. If we're going to foster small business and entrepreneurship, we have to cut the taxes and regulations to um, make it a playing field where people can start small businesses again, where they're not taxed at and regulated at every turn. We just need to restore the liberty of the people in this state.
Yeah, and I think what's interesting to some people is that, especially here in Arkansas, Republicans have been in charge. They've been in control for a number of years now under Asa and then now with Governor Sanders. And so, do you see Republicans in Arkansas growing government, or what is it that you see? Or they say
I
the
don't think it
Republicans.
matters which I don't think it matters which party you're in. It's two sides of the same coin when you have special interests that are funding the campaigns. Um, it's human nature uh, to uh, to want to make things better for yourself. And that's why we have so many bad people in politics. It's if you're in it for others, you don't take the bribe, you don't take that money, and you stand on your principles. And the money machine, they've made it to where you have to have PACs and special interests to win these big races. Now, my districts, I don't think it's as big a deal because we don't have uh, a large amount of money going into the campaigns. Maybe in the Senate side, but in the
Hmm.
House race, certainly not. Um,
Mm,
Here it's more about grassroots and actually connecting with the voters.
yeah,
And I think, post COVID, we've seen what Republicans can do with the draconian mandates with masks and vaccines and all that. I don't get that. I didn't mean to say that word. I know it's a catchword on social media, but it's
yeah,
true. We have to know. And I was running business at that time, and it's very detrimental. And we shouldn't forget those things. It was a Republican in office, and I'm not saying I'm against the Republicans. I'm just saying we need to vet our candidates. We have
yeah.
outsourced our choice to um, complacency, really, and most of the major news media who are being served by the same special interests that put those people in power. So,
Yeah, I have so many thoughts and questions on that, and I may forget them as we're talking, but um, that's why Conduit says it's so important to look at a voting record if there's one to look at, because
right,
there are people running again for office that were in office during COVID, and I mean, I believe and I urge voters to hold them accountable for those votes during COVID. And
right,
because, like you're saying, special interests and big government really ruled the day during COVID, and it was not individual liberty
right,
for Arkansans. And another thing that I just so vividly remember during COVID, and I know that our viewers will remember this as well because we covered it, was and I think it kind of COVID was, silver lining in so many ways because I think it really opened people's eyes to so many things going on, globally, nationally, even very local, down to your, chamber and city council, quorum court. But the state chamber really came out hard against, well, they were in support of allowing, these big companies to put these mandates in place and reject those vaccine exemptions. I mean, I can remember I interviewed this one man from Tyson. He had been there for a number of years, was soon to retire, given his life to that company, and they didn't accept his exemption and they fired him.
yeah,
And I think that not to belabor the point, but people don't need to forget, like you said, and then we need to hold those people accountable and remind them of the votes and educate others, especially if they're wanting to come back to office and run, when they
right,
supported those mandates and sided with the state chamber, who was not at the time working for the very local small business owner. They were thinking about Tyson and Walmart and everyone else. And so I think that's a really good point. Um,
right. I
what do
think
you
it's
think
also
of?
important to, sorry to interject here. I think it's
No, you,
important to, let people know that the state chamber isn't part of our government. They are privately owned.
yes. And we have an article that recently came out not too long ago about the state chamber and the Arkansas Association of Counties and the Municipal League. And it's been really eye-opening for people because not everyone's in the weeds all the time. And I think that a local chamber at times can be good. Like, I'm from South Arkansas, Hamburg. The people that I know down there that are involved in their local chamber, they're doing great work. And but the state chamber as a whole, and even the Arkansas Association of Counties, they use our tax dollars to lobby and work against us. And I don't think enough people know that and realize that.
I agree. Our small chambers, they do good things. I'm not sure if you're aware of a study that was done back in, I think it was 2023, that specifically was focused on the economic development money and the chambers of commerce. And the result of that, and it's deep in the study, but your local chambers, they only help your small businesses in your area. It's minuscule amount. I want to say like
Mhm.
6% versus
Okay.
the big area in Arkansas, like Northwest Arkansas, that got most of the money. So the state chamber funnels most of the money to big business. And
Yeah.
I may, um,
That that makes sense. Does it
yeah,
not?
I may be going on the exact percentage, but that's the gist of what the study
Okay. Maybe
showed.
we can find it and share it later when we post this interview. Um, there was something else I wanted to say about the chamber. It'll come back to me. But yeah, it's disappointing to watch. Oh, I know, economic development. And we can talk about this too, especially since you're a small business owner. Um, the what is HJR 15? I'm not really sure. It's the economic development bill that was passed at the very end of session. And what I find so fascinating, and I'm sure you remember this, is that in House, oh, was it state agencies? I know Representative Gazaway is the chair of that committee, but what Conduit calls corporate welfare districts, that
Hmm.
resolution by Beatty, it couldn't even like that, the committee members ranked what they thought was, most important and needed to go to the floor for a vote.
Right.
Corporate welfare districts didn't even make the top list. But at the very end of session, it was figured out a way to bring it back. And I talked to a number of legislators who said, we've been getting calls all weekend long that this is going to come back and we have to vote for it. The chamber wants it, everybody wants it. And of course, it was rammed down our throats at the very end of session. And
Yeah.
and now I talk to legislators. I'm like, do you know what you voted for? Well, I wouldn't have voted for it now. And I'm like, well, great. But the chamber, they're now putting out, op-eds about it. Randy Zucchia's op-eds. I've already gotten two different text messages for like a push poll about it. And they're probably like, they see my answers and they're like, we need to take her number off the list. But do you remember that? What did you think about that during that time?
Uh, I think Penzo was against that, right? I think I remember reading in your
Yes.
scorecard that, um, yeah, I think again, it just goes back to we've lost our way. We've, we have, we're fleecing the flock and funneling the money to special interests, to big business. If we want a healthy, thriving economy in Arkansas, we're going to have to put the money back into the hands of the people so they can start small business, so that they can grow their small business. And
Yeah.
that's what I want to do. We've got to rein this in, and we can't, government is not required to do due diligence anymore. I
Mm.
mean, I don't mean to beat a dead horse, but there was no due diligence in the site selection for the prison. Me as a business owner and as running business, if I don't do my due diligence on a project, that could ruin the company. And when it's other people's money, they don't seem to care. So we've
Yeah.
lost our way. We have to rein this in and put the money back in the hands of the folks in Arkansas. And I, and I know I can spend my money better than government can, and I'm confident that everyone else believes that as well.
Let's talk about the prison briefly. You mentioned that you do have parts of Franklin County. As that was unfolding during the session for that appropriation bill, and you were watching, what were your thoughts?
Well, it was shocking. 5 times it was voted down. And that's never happened that I can recall in Arkansas history. And yet they're still digging their heels in. Um, Specifically with uh, what I can't remember it wasn't the JPR. What was the other meeting that was in Little Rock where they held the voice vote? What was that meeting called? I don't remember.
It was during ALC week. I'd have to go
That's it.
back. I
That's
remember,
it.
I believe Senator Terry Rice
Yes,
chaired
he
that
did.
when
Yes,
Profiri wouldn't show up,
right. And they
right? Yeah.
they held a voice vote to subpoena him to answer questions. Uh, After discussing with some of the legislators over this past weekend, I found out that all it takes is two hands to require a roll call.
Mhm.
And there were two people in that room that would show two hands to require that they go on the record.
Yeah.
And I think that, again, we need to be representing the interests of the people who put us there. And we need answers. We have to hold their feet to the fire. Not one legislator works for the governor. We work for the people of our district. And we need to keep that in mind when we're up there. And, you know, uh, I'm not against everything the governor's done. I think she's done some great things. I think, and it's a way with a lot of the folks that get elected, is when you get up in the Capitol and you're there most of the time, you kind of get tone deaf because you're not
Mhm.
surrounded by the people of the state. And the only information you have is the bureaucracy, excuse me, that surrounds you. So you may not know that you're veering off the correct path. But I think that now's the time that we have to engage our electorate. We have to make sure that we have representatives that are held accountable by the people. And we discussed that in some meetings that I've been in with other liberty-minded folks, like the Freedom Caucus bunch. A Freedom Caucus would be a great thing. And my
Mhm.
my answer to them was that we all get involved and we have a group of folks that keep each other accountable in each district in the areas. We have we just have to this government requires that we all be involved. It
Yeah.
doesn't run itself because somebody's going to run it, and if we don't do it, it's going to be those that may not have our best interests in mind.
When you hear our motto, "The people rule," what does that mean to you?
It echoes the Constitution all the way back to the Magna Carta. It's what this country was founded on. And regnant populace it's not just a catchphrase for marketing. I've been in marketing now for many years, and it's good to have a a slogan that resonates with people. But to me, regnant populace means much more than that. It means that
Mhm.
each one of us are the government. It's not the people that sit in the capital. They are not the government. The government resides in the people. And I believe in a government, or I believe in a constitution that doesn't limit the people, that it limits the government, not the people. And the people rule. And where our voices are heard and our dreams aren't crushed by taxes and one size fits all mandates. So that's
Yeah,
what regular populace means to me is
yeah. I think I've heard this argument more so in the last, I would say, 2 years. Um, and it is, and really the argument comes from either legislators or those who benefit off the system. But well, the people rule, but the people have chosen a representative, and that representative is then sent to Little Rock or DC um, to use the resources, wisdom, connect, whatever they have to make the best decision for the people. And the people trust them to make the best decision for their district. And, these people, who vote them in office, they have busy lives. They're farmers or, they're busy with their kids and whatever. And so they then just entrust that vote to that legislator and to make the best decision that they believe is right.
uh, that's a differing philosophy, than what I hold. I hold the philosophy that it's my job to inform the people of my district what's going on. So that way they can let me know what their will is. How,
Hmm.
how, you know, the number one thing is that you have to be reachable. that's one of the top questions I get on the campaign trail is, will you be reachable and will you keep us informed? And, I tell everyone that you don't have to be in the club to get my phone number. You don't have to be
Hmm.
part of the good old boy club. And, I'm not going to gatekeep my phone number. I'm not going to be screening my calls. I want to hear from you. If you have an opinion on something that's going on, and, we have social media now. There's no reason why you can't keep folks back home informed. We don't have to
Yeah.
write a letter or make phone calls even. It's not even that difficult. You just
Yeah.
let people know what's going on and they can tell you. And
Yeah.
then if you get it wrong, and you have some people that don't like the vote that you made, then you can say, hey, I reached out, I let everybody know I didn't hear from you. I'm sorry. You
Hmm.
know,
Hmm.
I've used the information that I had available at the time. And and I think most people, they that live in this country, they value freedom and liberty. And with that in mind, I think um, that it's pretty simple on any vote you make. Will it increase liberty or decrease liberty? And that's kind of the litmus test I use. Will it grow the government or shrink it?
Yeah.
Will it uh, raise the budget? Will it increase the
Hmm.
budget? Will we have to raise more taxes, or will it decrease it?
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. Um, I have so many thoughts on that, but I'm going to try to, we could probably talk for a while. Regarding liberty and freedom, an issue that has kind of come to the forefront, especially during, I believe it was 2023 special session, but it's still something that a lot of watchdogs and Arkansans keep an eye on is the Freedom of Information Act. Do you believe that? And of course, I've had Robert Steinbuck on here often, and he's like, look, it's not that we don't ever need to um, our sunshine law. I mean, there can be tweaks, but as far as the overall sentiment of our FOIA law and where we are now, and citizens having the right to know what their government is doing, where do you stand on that?
I don't think it's the government's. I don't think government doesn't have rights. This this false assumption that they have a right to privacy in some way. The government has no rights. The rights are reserved for the people. So I'll put this into perspective. If I, as a business owner, I hire somebody to run the department in my company, and they say, you can look at all these numbers, but this side of the business, that's off limits. It's for my safety. That's not acceptable. And it shouldn't be acceptable in government either.
Another
Agree.
issue that, yeah, I
So,
agree. And I don't think it's that complicated, really, but you almost see like these, multiple things happening at once, growing government, spending more money, new boards and appointments, and, helping out your friends. But then
yeah,
we want to reduce transparency so you don't actually know what we're doing over here.
right,
That is wild to me.
right.
Another issue that I know a lot of Arkansans care about is election integrity. Of course, a series of bills went through the legislative session about that. Um, where do you stand on election integrity? Do you believe that Arkansas's elections are safe and secure? What are your thoughts?
I will tell you that personally, I'm not in favor of electronic voting machines.
Why is that?
Um, well, I'm an IT guy, and that's one advantage that I have over my competitors is I've been in the technology field for a while, for many years, um, and I know what's capable. And when you when you have software that records something, if you don't know the language, the code that it's written in, if that's not open source,
Mhm.
then there's no transparency there.
So,
So
what would
things
you
can be
like?
changed.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just saying that I'm not in favor of electronic voting machines. Do I think that shenanigans are going on in Arkansas? I don't have any evidence to support that, but I do believe that it should be up to the people. The decision should be made by quorum courts, by counties. If they want paper
Hmm.
ballots, they should be able to have them. Excuse me.
Yeah.
But the electronic voting machines, we've seen what can happen at the national level. There's court cases that are just going through now that are being finally litigated that prove that if you have somebody, a bad actor, that they can get a hold of that and do bad things. So I think with the paper ballot, it's black and white. Not to say that they can't, cheat things that way, but at least you have a document trail. You have um, uh, signatures on who's had possession
Right.
of the
Yeah.
documents.
Yeah.
It's just a better way to ensure integrity in what you're doing.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get a lot of pushback for saying that, but I'm just being totally honest. At a philosophical level, I believe that that's probably the best way to do it, um, to ensure that it's legitimate. That's
Yeah.
how I'll avoid that.
No, we appreciate your honesty. I was listening to Tucker Carlson's interview with Theo Vaughn, and something that they said a lot. But one thing that Tucker said, and he was talking about, they were talking about the Republican primaries, things going on at the federal level, and they were talking about Marjorie Taylor Greene and Thomas Massey, and some
That's a
really
mess
American,
right now.
yeah, just some strong America First candidates that are being attacked and primaried because they don't go along to get along.
Right.
And Tucker said, and I thought this was great. He said, sincerity, humbleness, honesty, but sincerity, he said, is one of the greatest threats to the system and those who benefit off the system. He said it's because, like, if you just tell the truth, if you're just honest, and like how Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, you look at here in the state, you look at Clint Penzo, you look at the late Senator Gary Stubblefield, you look at Senator Brian King. And when they don't go along to get along and they're sincere in their votes and what they really think, that is a great threat to the system. And so I think,
100%.
sincerity and you being upfront and honest, especially with your constituents, is one of the greatest things you can do.
100%. Sunshine is the best disinfectant. When you inject truth, um, folks that don't like the truth, they they stammer. That
Yeah,
that's a threat to them.
yeah,
And I'm seeing that. I'm seeing that in the race. Um, I've been told by several people that have been in the system for a while. They've been in part of. I'm just a regular guy, and I saw that something needed to be done, and I felt it. I had a calling on my heart to do this because I have children. I have grandchildren. I have 6 children, um, 2 beautiful grandchildren, and I have to do my part
yeah,
in ensuring that they have a future. And you know, I I run my home, my business, and my life by God, family, country. And if you're not telling the truth, you're not following the first rule. So I think
yeah.
that's 100% correct what he said.
Yeah. And regarding truth, something else that he said, and he's like, they come after me. They, call me all these names. And he said, it's because I can't be bought. I'm not bought, and they know it.
Right.
And he said, they'll be gone someday. I'll be gone someday, but the truth remains. And that's what they can't stand. I thought, we're seeing that everywhere right now, it seems. I want
Right.
to talk to you about education, the LEARNS Act. Where do you stand on the LEARNS Act and parental choice regarding education?
So, with respect to parental choice, I do want to say that I am all in favor of parents being able to choose where their children goes to school, whether it be at home, private school, or public school. That's a freedom that we should have in this country, and I'm all for that. I'm not for subsidizing private businesses like private schools. I don't think that is a good formula for success. And the LEARNS Act is loosely based on Arizona's
Hmm.
voucher program, and they started theirs well before ours. And if we want to see, kind of how that's going to end up, all we have to do is look at Arizona. Their education budget has been over budget at every turn, and they're now having to close schools. So if we do not want to see our small schools like Magazine, Scranton, County Line, if we don't want to see those close, we have to right the ship. We have to do something quickly. Um, I,
Well, so
I'm
what?
all for. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, so what would that look like to you? Do you believe in this concept of, people would say before Learns was passed, well, we had school choice. Well, no, we had like school choice light, and you could choose, a few schools in your area, but it wasn't completely open for parents to choose. So what would that look like then if you don't believe in, the funding going to private schools, which a lot of parents have now chosen? Um, you know, what would you propose?
Well, I'll start with, over 80% of the vouchers that went to private schools were folks that were already sending their children to private schools.
Hmm.
So there's not a lot of gain there, that although there is some and it's increasing. Um, the choice aspect, I think, is it's just part of your liberty. If you want your child to go to a school that's in your district, I think that's great. If you want to go send your child to a school that's maybe doing better, academically, I think that should be your right. You shouldn't have to send your child to a school that maybe you don't feel is doing, uh, they're not upholding your values, or maybe they're
Hmm.
not doing as well academically. They're not, it's a free market. Um, I know it's a public system, but in the same way, I should be able to send my child to the school I see I best see fit to send them to. So
Hmm.
that's where I stand on that. If we and
Yeah.
I'll say if we don't fix what's free and public, we're just in a race to the bottom. Um,
Yeah, no, I agree with that. What are your thoughts? This has been kicked around a bit regarding property taxes and schools and that sort of thing. And I hear people say, well, I don't want my tax dollars to go to this school, especially when my kid's not there anymore, or I'm retired. I don't have anyone in the system. And some people believe, oh, well, it's, the government's role, and like we have, we can't eliminate property taxes because of schools and yada yada. And so I've heard some legislators kick the idea around. We'll see if they actually ever do anything with it. Well, what if we could draft legislation? I don't know if this has ever been done before, but what if we could draft legislation that would allow you to direct those property taxes away from schools that you don't in your area? So, like if I lived, I live in Fayetteville. If I don't want my dollars to go to the Fayetteville Public School District, I would be able to redirect that to a different school district. Do you think that's a wild thought, or what do you think?
no, I think that's a valid question. Um, my solution would be to replace the property tax with nothing. It's a constitutional mandate that our state funds our public schools.
Yeah,
There's nothing in the Constitution that says that we have to fund any of it. Uh,
yeah,
um, from the beginning, I've said that our seniors, 65 and older, veterans, and disabled folks, essentially, if you qualify for HUD housing, the government should not be charging you rent for your property. We shouldn't. Those folks should not have to worry. They spend an entire lifetime paying for a home. There
yeah,
should be no threat of the government ever being able to take that from them. And it's again, we're just it's going back to what I said earlier. We have to rein this in.
yeah,
And, if we cut those property taxes out, that grandmother, grandfather can leave that property to a son or grandson who, may start a business. They may sell it, start a business. It's when you have a larger government, the people's liberty is smaller. And
Yeah.
you know, I don't want to get too philosophical, but when you have a huge government, your economy is gonna it's well, we're seeing the effects of it now. So
Yeah. Yeah. And
it's like
I'm, yeah, anyone who follows conduit know that that's what we preach. And I understand how people can be focused, on single issues. And, there are organizations who do great work that focus on, single issues. Um, but as what I think I hear you say, the more government has, the less freedom you have. And when the government has all of your money, these issues that are so important, they don't really matter because you lose your freedom because the
right,
government is so big and unrestrained and has all of your paycheck.
right,
And that's why we harp on economic freedom all of the time because nothing else matters when the government has all of your money.
right.
Um, there was one other thing we were talking about that I wanted to ask you about, but I do think it would be interesting. I know we were talking about property taxes. We have heard and we may remember back, years ago during campaign season, candidates saying, we're going to eliminate the state income tax. And has Arkansas done enough? What would you like to see happen?
Uh, I think they cut it in half now. What is it like 3.5 something? I don't remember exactly
Yeah,
where.
they've made like a few small little, maybe two or three small cuts here and there over the past few years.
I propose that we eliminate it altogether. You know, essentially what you're saying, all you have to do is take this and flip it to a different perspective. If let's say it's 3%, let's say it's 1%,
Hmm.
that's essentially saying that for a certain period of time in my year, I'm working for the government. I have no contract with them. They have no right to my labor. That's not freedom. And I don't want folks to think that I'm, a total anarchist. I'm not an anarchist. I believe in a limited government. All I'm saying is
Yeah,
we have to get back to what worked. You know, we have to go back to first principles. We have
yeah,
to put money back in the pockets of the people of Arkansas because government they're not doing they're not doing well with it. You're not getting a good ROI on your investment.
yeah. Um, One of our co-founders, uh, you may have met him, Joe Maynard. He hammers home limited government. And I've heard those who once, said that they also believed in those things to now kind of flip the script and they are growing government. And so then their defense is, well, you guys are just anarchists. You just want no government. And it's like, what? No,
No,
you've lost the plot. Like, and how do you determine like why this and this is necessarily government's job and government's role to get involved in this and this? And that's, what I was thinking all along is, as I hear you say, a lot of our lawmakers have lost the plot of what,
right.
government's intended role really was. Um, and so we need people in office who know what that is. What else are you hearing before I let you go in your district from those at your meeting that they really care about or feel is important for them?
People are in my district. They're just really feeling the crunch of inflation. The economy is not doing great, and they want representation, and they want to be able to get in touch with the folks that they elect. It's that simple. So we have to get back to, like you were saying, what is the role of government? What is the role of our elected officials? Excuse me. Sorry, but
Um,
we have to get back to the role of a representative government. And you hear folks all the time say, "In this democracy, and we have a democracy." We do not have a democracy. A democracy, easily defined, it is two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. We
yeah,
have a republic. So it's important that you get involved, and you contact your elected officials. And if you can't get in touch with them, it's important that you put somebody up there that does represent you. You know, that we need to elect folks that have liberty in mind and that have the same values that we do.
Yeah. How can people get involved in your campaign or get in touch with you?
Sure, they can. My phone number is it's on my website. It's on my push cards. It's 479-310-5655. You can reach me anytime. You can text that number. You can call me, leave me a voicemail. If I can't get back to you within an hour, I'll send you a text message telling you I'll get back to you as soon as possible. But yeah, reach out. We need all the help we can get. Like I said, I'm grassroots. I don't have PAC money coming into my campaign. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. This isn't, I don't have to speak. I don't have a consultant that I have to ask before I can say, no, I'm against the prison. I don't have a consultant that tells me, hey, this is the message we're going with. We need to change, what our messaging, we need to change our messaging on this. Or, I'm not worried about stepping on toes because I'm me, I know what people are feeling in my district because I'm one of them.
Yeah.
So, and if that resonates with you, I would appreciate your vote.
Well, Brian, thank you so much for coming on Conduit. Really appreciate it. Would love to have you back on as we get closer to
Absolutely.
March, if that would work. Okay. Well, thanks again.
Thank you.